Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Product for Product. Thanks for tuning in this week. Today, we are discussing in-app messaging with the tool Intercom. We're excited to have Andrea Saez on the show to discuss her experiences in product and with Intercom. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Hi, and this is Moshe here speaking. So can you introduce yourself, Andrea, and tell us a bit about yourself, where you work in, etc.?
For sure. Thanks to you as well for hosting this. So my name is Andrea. I'm Senior Product Marketing Manager at airfocus.
Very cool. About airfocus, what does the business do?
So it's a product management platform that essentially allows primarily product teams, but really because product is such a collaborative role, way of working. I mean, I don't even know how to describe what product is anymore.
Yeah.
Such a big, important,
it is.
Yeah, it's such a big, important part of every company that you have to keep in mind that it's not really the product team working alone, but while it is designed and built for product teams, it's really for the entire organization to be able to maintain alignment, understand how decisions are made, what's being built, why it's being built, manage customer feedback and all of that, which may seem like a fairly topic or platform. There's quite a few tools out there, but the interesting thing about airfocus is that it's built with flexibility and modularity in mind, which means that if you're a smaller company that is just starting out and perhaps you just need a roadmap to get started with, something to kind of get you going, then you only have to install the roadmap. If you then want to expand as you grow into feedback and backlogs and more complicated processes, then you kind of start adding those things on top. So it's not designed in a way where we tell you, these are all the things, you have to use them and you have to use them this way. But kind of considering and keeping in mind that, industries are different, companies are different, teams are different, processes are different, workflows are different. So why not, build a tool that actually allows teams to be able to, change and grow.
Right. So we should tap into your user base and find someone to talk with us about it in one episode in the future, for sure. Let's start talking about Intercom. That's what we're here for today. And you mentioned to us that you're using at airfocus, you're using Intercom. And when I hear about Intercom, or at least I've seen it in the past, and use it these days, or at least what I know as a user of the end user on product, is that it's like this chat system that you can put inside your product and people can interact with you on different ways. So I never figured this. They have also features for in-app messaging, like some of the other products that we covered before. And then I heard from you and from other people as well that they do have this type of functionalities. Tell us a bit about that. What different in-app messaging capabilities Intercom has these days?
Yeah, so what's really interesting about Intercom is that they focus a lot around engagement and conversations. But how you might start those conversations, they have different use cases for. So certainly chat is one of them. I know they've been exploring some of the support side of things, so how to handle support tickets and things like that. They do in-app messaging, they do like onboarding flows and things like that. They have banners that you can add on your product, emails as well, email sequences for like onboarding or campaigns or things like that. So it's really great because you don't have to just use one method or one way of communicating with people. You can actually, use different ways and different methods of targeting people.
Right. So they developed a lot of other things that from the day a few years ago, I guess 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I looked at them first, where back then it was just the chat. That's all you could really do there. So now you're saying you could do it in many different ways. And this in-app messaging that they have, like you were saying, it also includes onboarding sequences and stuff like that. So it doesn't always create engagement of like a chat with someone or communication with someone, but it could be all just to help a user use the system, right?
Yeah, and my product management answer is going to be, well, it depends.
Sure.
And it really does depend.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're looking to do, how you're looking to engage with people. So there's different mechanisms. You could put out an in-app message about a feature or a new launch that you've just done. Announce it, put a little button to watch a video or read the documentation, and then people can either reply to you and you can start a conversation with them, which is super handy if they were to have any questions, or if you just want to sort of gather really high level intelligence and feedback, you can just say reply with an emoji. So people would be able to tell you, hey, this is cool, or no, this sucks. Hopefully nobody's going to tell you that your new launch sucks, but you kind of get the idea.
We need honest feedback.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right. Absolutely. Then when it comes to like the banners and the product tours and things like that, like the pips and the guidance, you can certainly do it so that it triggers a conversation if that's what you want to do. So the flexibility is there for you to say, you guide someone through a couple of things, and then if they really need to start a chat with someone, then you can also put that within the options.
Right. So they do seems to have to cover like what other products are covering as well. What are some scenarios that you guys are using them for?
We use it for announcing, like I said, features, any launches, let people know, keep them up to date with what's being done. We also use it quite a bit for discovery. So we'll ping certain segments of users and ask them if they want to join in a discovery session about a particular topic, which has actually been really, really helpful for the team. We also use the email side for onboarding. And we have used the banners, particularly on the website, when we announced our funding round for 5 million a few months ago. So there's like I said, there's flexibility in how it can be used and where it can be used, because it's not just in the app; it's also on our marketing site.
When you mentioned the discovery, this is more to reach out to users to ask them to help you, but the help is outside of the system, or there is also do you run different experiments with different types of messages or different types of Wizard of Oz or other type of fake doors that you put in there to see people reactions?
For now, what we're doing really is just running a lot of discovery on problems we could potentially solve and how we might solve them. So it's more like, hey, we're running discovery, for example, on how people manage feedback. Would you like to join us on a session to tell us more about, how you do this, what your process looks like, blah, blah, blah. And then people join us, we learn from it, and we're then able to launch a new Insights app, which actually just came out. So there's a very obvious loop then for customers that they joined us in a session, we understood and took their feedback, and then we built something for them. So it's a really nice way of also kind of closing that feedback loop and being able to show people that we're not just asking them to join us and then we're not building things, but we are actually building things for them.
And what I was wondering about that is, do you see, I don't know if you compare it with other reach out ways that you try to get users to help you, but do you see that if you do it through the app in-app messaging, you actually get a better response?
For our internal users, I think when they get it in the app, they're able to react and respond right away, at least in terms of this, right, which is asking people to join us in a discovery session. I think when we're announcing other things like feature launches or anything like that, email is certainly more impactful because, again, it depends. I'm going to say both. We still announce things in app, obviously, but if you want to get the attention of someone who perhaps hasn't been logging in a little bit and kind of want to rein them back in, then email would be the way to get their attention. And then once they log in the app, they kind of get that reinforced and they go, oh, cool, let's check this out.
Right. That's true.
Moshe and I have also talked about the ability to throttle in-app messaging that's coming through. Does it do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so you can set the messages in a series or in a very specific timing. So you can say, the first message is this, and we wait a couple of days, or an event might happen. So they do have event-based tracking that you can push in through segment. Let's say event X happens, then push this other message. If this other event happens or doesn't happen, then you can push these two different messages. So it is pretty smart in how you can set up that series for sure.
Cool.
No, that's an important feature to have, because we definitely don't want to mess up with what we show to the users, and sometimes there could be lots of different things going on.
Yeah. Also, one thing to consider is if somebody has already done something, you wouldn't ask them to do it again.
Oh, great point.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Right. So if I go ahead and add a profile picture, it would be really, really dumb to then be like, hey, please complete your profile and your profile picture. So having that event tracking, insert it within that flow where you go, cool, they've already done it. What else can we do to keep them moving forward? Is adding to the experience for the user.
Mm-hmm. How does segmentation works at Intercom?
Segmentation is actually super smart. That I would say that's one of the things that I like the most about Intercom is that they do offer you kind of the basic default fields, so to speak. So company, email, username, when they were last seen, and that's all tracked through the widget script. So the widget script will allow you to get some sort of basic information. And you can always pass through some of those details, like, do they have a specific role? Are they on a trial account? Are they on an active account? Things like that. So fields that already exist within your product. For everything else that's like event-based tracking, like I said, we use segment for that. So it comes through, and then you can segment by an attribute and an event that they may have made. So you could potentially look for everybody that is based in San Francisco that added a profile picture and created an account in the last 14 days and has logged in, 15 times, for example.
Right. Yeah. So it's pretty robust.
Yeah, definitely.
This is audio only, so it's a bit hard to describe how the system is, but we're always interested to hear about the user friendliness of the system and how easy or hard it is to start using it. What's your experience with Intercom?
That's a great question. I think that the positive things about Intercom is that it's fairly intuitive. So the navigation of it and the handling of it is pretty user friendly. I don't really have any complaints around that. It all makes sense. I think there are things that could be improved. So sometimes when you're using a product, all the bells and whistles work, but it's those tiny little interactions that create the most frustration, right? Because you're trying to do the same thing over and over again. And it may not be the big button that doesn't work, but it's that one tiny little thing that's a repetitive thing that falls apart. So an example of that would be within a series, you can connect how the flow goes, right? So you have email 1, email 2, message 1, message 2. Creating an arrow from one message to the other is the most painful experience ever.
So it's just a graphical thing on the screen that...
It's just, you literally go to the item, you drag it so that you create an arrow, and then you connect it to something else. And it is the most painful experience ever. You have no idea. Like, that was probably the one thing when I was creating the series that was just such a cause of frustration. But in the larger scheme of things, it's not the most important feature, right? But it is part of the user experience.
Right.
So just the bugginess behind that was what caused the frustration. But when you take a step back and you see the outcome, you're like, yeah, okay, so it works and it's fantastic and I can do so much with it. But that everyday interaction was just, I wish they would put a little bit more emphasis on those minor things, because and I want to quote a product manager I worked with once who said, it's the little things that really make the experience.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. It's really interesting because when I'm thinking about wow features or stuff like that, usually as a product manager, I'm thinking about big ideas or big innovations and stuff like that. But it's really, as a user, it's really those little things that kind of make or break a product. I can think about like when I'm using PowerPoint or even Google presentations, and I want to move an item from one end to the other or around. Sometimes it's really hard, depends how many elements I have on the screen. It's very hard to move it. But then when I use Canva, they added a little control next to the icon, and it's always there, and you can always pick it up and just move it. Just that was like, when I saw it the first time, I was like, wow, there is no problem moving anything.
Yeah. I think another example, which is a frustration that I think many people share, is when you're in Miro and you're trying to drag the screen and you accidentally drag the entire icon or the entire image. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, because you have to remember to lock it. And if
exactly.
you don't lock
if you don't lock it, then
Yes, for sure.
I've been there.
So I think that we are all been there as users of these type of products that have these little things that, but then on the other end, when we're the product managers, we're like, oh yeah, this is such a small thing. People can handle it without it. Let's develop the big thing that they don't have yet. So it's really an interesting point that you raised there, Andrea. Cool. Now, I'll let you, Matt, ask about data, because I know you always love asking about that. So
yes, I did have a question about the data for sure. I was checking the website out, and it has customer data platform on there. That's what they brand themselves as. So I guess they advertise as a central hub for all your customer data, behavioral data, company data. So I'm curious how you're using it at airfocus.
So I would say in terms of data, like I said, the fact that you can push things in from other areas. So another area that we push in from is HubSpot, for example, so that we have some of those details like their MRR, their account type, who their customer success manager is, for example, that would come from HubSpot directly. And it's certainly helpful in terms of just triaging who answers tickets. If you need a little bit more information, about the background of the customer, then it's all there. And like I said, you can then expand that into how you communicate and what messages you send them. So it's certainly very helpful to be able to push in all that data.
Cool. Do they deliver any sort of analytics along the way, like any sort of dashboarding or visualization?
So I would say analytics is probably not their forte.
Gotcha.
Forte, sorry.
That's good.
There is stuff. But I would say for the amount of marketing that I'm seeing on this page, it's certainly not where it could or should be. And analytics is one part that I still really struggle with. So yes, you can prioritize your important customers. Sure, that's not an issue. You can target specific customers. Yes. You can find the context that you need. Yes, but there are things that are just not quite there. So for example, you can create a custom bot. And this custom bot might ask them a question and then give them a bunch of options. So option A, option B, option C. Cool. They go to option A, then they get more options, and then they get more options, and then they get more options. What they tell you is the percentage of people that completed that flow and how far they got, but you don't get to see who did it.
Oh, okay.
Right. And I'm just like, okay, cool. So 50% of customers completed this flow. Who was it?
Yeah.
I can't see it. You cannot drill down or even use that to do another set of segmentation. Exactly.
So they don't have that. The way that we worked around it is by tagging the people at each point of the step. So when they answer A, we tag them with something. And then if they go A, B, then we tag them with something, or AAB, whatever.
So you have to create it your own.
You have to kind of get creative with it a little bit, and then you can export that data, and then you can do the analysis somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by it's a little bit lacking for the type of tool that Intercom is, right? I would expect these things to just be there because it makes sense. If you're allowing me to segment users, like you said, I should then be able to create a cohort out of that,
right,
and target those specific users better. But that's
either that, or just at least to know how the users behave, not just percentage wise, but each one individually, or if you want to follow up with them or whatever.
Exactly. I can't do that. I have to tag them, and then I can follow up with them through that tag. But it's, I had to get creative about it.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent it works, but it's not as easy as I would have expected it to be.
Right.
So I would definitely love to see some of those analytics ramp up a little bit.
Oh, this is where you bring in something like a mixed panel or an amplitude. They have a bunch of integrations apparently. So And they have something called the App Store. Their App Store has the integrations. I guess that's where you have to build all that out. So, okay.
Exactly. But then if I have to go to Mixpanel, then I have to create the events there and then
it's
go
the
back to Intercom.
Yeah. It's not the best experience, right? So
yeah.
For sure.
That's what it comes down to, experience.
And it's not only that, there is the events that you're raising from your own application, and then there is those events that are raised from the service they are giving us. They're giving you those in-app messages. The same way that I would not want to develop all of these in-app messages, I would not want also to raise all of these events that they happen. So it seems like that part is missing there. Mm-hmm.
I think the basics are there. But this isn't, the tiny guy that just started. This is Intercom. So at this point, I would expect there to be more than just the basics.
Yeah.
So I think analytics could be a little bit better.
And I know that they captured a lot of attention from a lot of users and customers. So they do have a huge, I don't know how big it is, but they do have a huge, customer base. And I've seen, Intercom on many, many applications that I used. Many of them, I think, I might be wrong about that, are like startups or something like that really needed something that was not too expensive and were able to connect with their users. And probably that's how they moved forward with their offerings and added all of these features, but it's still kind of missing some of that, next step of analyzing how people actually used it and stuff like that.
I don't know that I would qualify Intercom as a cheap tool.
Well, maybe not these days. So
not these days.
That's a fair point. That's what I thought it was, but maybe I'm completely wrong about that.
When they started, perhaps that may have been how they got traction. But yeah, sorry, I was going to say they kind of moved into this modularity thing where you get the things that you need, but each additional thing costs a lot more money.
Yep.
It's
like a house.
Actually, if you go to their pricing page, you'll notice that they don't have any pricing available anymore. Somebody brought this up in one of the product Slack groups. There's absolutely no pricing available. So that tells me that certainly they're moving up market, and they're targeting enterprise. But they do still have the starter pricing. So as you're pointing out, they set you up with the starter price, but then as you grow, then you need to pay more and more and more.
Right.
So their pricing is certainly interesting.
Okay. What about I think that I've seen in the past that they also have social integrations where they can bring data from other systems to know more about your clients. Is that something that is still there?
So we currently don't have integrations with other, yes and no. We have integrations with like HubSpot, for example. So that might be considered an integration. I don't know if that's necessarily social, but but I have used it in the past connected to Clearbit. And if you're familiar with Clearbit, basically what it does is it scrapes information about the user. So it looks for any social accounts, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever may be available.
I think that's that's probably what I've seen.
So I've used it with Clearbit before. It's certainly handy, at least in terms of being able to then create that segmentation and expand on it.
Yeah, but that's probably, I would guess this is probably more usable for B2C rather than B2B, because sometimes B2B also have other restrictions that we can't really know too much about the users anyway. So
yeah, it's one of those, it depends, right? Like how much information are you collecting?
Yeah.
How much behavioral data do you really want to collect?
Yeah.
So there are things that you can do which don't necessarily have to be too intrusive. Like if you see someone come to your website 2 or 3 or 4 times, the widget will save, that information, that cookie. And then you can trigger a message that says, hey, we've seen you here several times. Is there anything we can help you with? That doesn't sound too creepy. However, I have seen it used in the past where somebody connected it to probably either Clearbit or something. And they said, hey, we saw that you use Mixpanel. Would you like to chat about our integration with Mixpanel? And I'm like, guys, no, stop.
Stalker mode.
Yeah. And that's what I think we're more accustomed to that in B2C, that we're being creeped up on things we searched online and things we buy on Amazon and stuff like that.
That's too much.
Where in B2B, we're like, that's probably less appropriate.
Yeah, definitely. And this was this was the product that I was looking to use for our company, and I think it was the first time I was going on their website on I don't even know how long. And the first message I get is, "Hey, we saw that you use Mixpanel. Would you like to know about our integration with Mixpanel?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, I really don't. And please remove this
How
because
did you know
it's very, very creepy."
Yeah. So that is another scenario of probably what we don't want to use in-app messaging for. So,
I think there's ways of tracking that data without being incredibly creepy about it. So you can say, yes, we know that you've looked at this, or we know that you were looking to cancel your account. Is there anything we can help you with? So there are things that you can do to be more helpful and prevent churn or increase that conversion. Like I said, if someone's looked at your pricing page a couple of times, offer them a chat. There's nothing wrong or creepy about that. But if you're very specifically saying, we know that you've looked at X pages, use X other products, let me tell you about the integrations, perhaps that's like a step too far.
Yeah. Tell us a bit, I think you mentioned already before, top 3, we always ask top 3 features that you like and top 3 that you don't like. You also already mentioned about that one with the arrows connecting.
So if I start with the ones I don't like, I should probably start the other way. But the ones that I don't like, since I've already mentioned a few, some of the usability things, the analytics could certainly be better, and some of the duplication things and the exporting. Like if I'm looking at a series and there's an email in that series and there's people that have read that email, I can't export that data. I can see it, but I can't export it. And I'm sure they would say, "Oh yeah, we'll add exporting to that soon." But again, it's like, well, why wasn't it there from the beginning, right? Exporting your data seems like a no-brainer. That said, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining a lot. There are certainly a lot of things that are wonderful about Intercom, like the fact that it's super easy for anyone to start a conversation with you. And that's what you want, right? You want to reduce that friction with your potential customers and your leads, even your active customers, and just allow them to talk as quickly as possible.
Right.
Guaranteed that if you're looking to close a deal, I actually did an analysis on this. 60% of people are more likely to buy your product if they're able to talk to you, right? So
it makes it much more personal for sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I love the segmentation, so you can cater to that experience without being creepy, as we said. And I love that it is actually really easy to use. So you get in there, you know how to talk to someone, you know how to reply, you know where the reply button is. I know that sounds, like it should be really straightforward, which it should be. But I've been in products where I couldn't even find the send button and there was no enter. Right. So certainly the overall experience is there, and it's not a product that is difficult to use. And I like that overall their UX is spot on despite those little frustrations.
Right. And what about the company itself? Any words to our audience about things you like about them, things you think they should improve on?
I don't like dissing people. I don't think that's cool. I think, like many companies, they're growing and they're learning from their public mistakes, which they may have had a few hiccups here and there. But I've met the CEO a couple times. He's a wonderful person. I love their blog. I love their approach to product. They're certainly always learning and putting stuff out. So I think the core of it all is good.
Yeah, they do have a great blog and a lot of exposure about their internal processes.
I love that transparency for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that a lot of product people learn a lot. I read, I don't know how many, but I read some of their blogs and experiences. So that is definitely quite nice and refreshing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were aiming to be, like one of the FANGs companies or not, or it's just their culture. That will be interesting to understand a bit more. But it's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about their culture. I certainly haven't heard anything negative per se.
Yeah, but I think it can resonate from those blog posts. I hope so, at least, that
Yeah.
it can resonate from that. But you're right.
Absolutely.
I mean, no one can really know from outside until you.
Yeah, I mean, what I can tell you is that the few times I've spoke to people that work there outside of support, I mean, they certainly like it. I've been to their office in Dublin; they're fantastic. Like I said, they've made some mistakes here and there, but what I appreciate is that then they go, listen, we screwed up, right? And that transparency is refreshing, because at the end of the day, we all screw up. I mean, it's going to happen at some point, right? Nobody is perfect.
Yeah, we all know,
and having that ability to say, listen, we're a big company and we do make mistakes, is probably a more powerful statement than somebody trying to pretend like they didn't make mistakes.
Right. Okay, perfect. Matt, do you have any other questions for Andrea before we wrap up?
No, this has been really helpful. As you were saying, I first got introduced to Intercom through a podcast. They have a podcast, and that's where I really started getting information. You mentioned their blog. So I was familiar with Intercom, but I didn't know anybody that used it. So this conversation has been really helpful.
I'm sure you have used it or seen it in some product that you use.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
You just didn't know this is
I didn't know it was Intercom.
Yeah, exactly. Once you know it, you will definitely see it in many other places.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very nice. So where can everyone reach out to you if they want to, Andrea, where they can find you?
Probably the best place is through Twitter at DreaSaez.
Perfect. And any other things you wanted to mention? Any other projects you're working on?
Well, I don't know how much I'm allowed to divulge.
Okay,
but we are certainly working on a lot of really cool stuff around product learning, for sure, and helping product managers, just absorb more information, because at the end of the day, that's what product is, right? We're always learning. Like I said, we're always failing, we're always learning, we're always pushing forward.
Growing.
And the most refreshing thing any product person can do is admit they screwed up and then talk about what they learned. Which, the more companies support that, the better product practices we'll have.
Right. And I've seen your digests on LinkedIn. You post them, different digest of different product resources and
yes, that is our so we have Product Hero, Product Learn, and our Product Digest.
Yeah, that's nice. So I like that too.
The digest focuses on just giving you some cool stuff that we find. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you very much. That was really great learning from you and from your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries.
Thank you so much for joining the show, and to thank you all the listeners for listening. Everybody take care.
Bye-bye.